cover. Narrator: on the surface, he was a charming, well-educated, and seemingly harmless man. But beneath the facade, he was one of the most dangerous serial killers in American history. Today we're talking about Theodore Ted Bundy, the man who terrorized America with his charm and his unspeakable crimes. Ted Bundy's early life. Background visuals of 1950 suburban America. Narrator: Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His childhood seemed ordinary, but there were early signs of his unusual personality. Raised by his grandparents, Ted was told that his mother was his sister, a lie that may have shaped his later struggles with identity and anger. Though he appeared to be a polite, well-adjusted young man, Ted's later interviews hinted at an early fascination with dark topics. Section 2. The Turning Point. Images of Ted as a young adult, studying law and interacting socially. Narrator: by the early 1970s, Ted was an ambitious young man, studying law and involved in local politics. But a failed relationship in his early 20s marked a turning point. Soon after, a series of disappearances began in Washington state. Attractive, young women were vanishing without a trace, and Ted Bundy was just getting started. Section 3. The killings begin. Dark, suspenseful visuals with audio effects. Narrator: between 1974 and 1978, Ted Bundy targeted women across several states. His method was calculated. He would often wear a fake cast or carry crutches, asking women for help loading something into his car. When they least expected it, he would knock them unconscious and abduct them. Authorities were baffled. Bundy managed to evade capture by constantly changing his appearance and moving from state to state. Overlay maps showing states like Washington, Utah, and Colorado with cases marked. Narrator: Ted was meticulous, ensuring he left little evidence. His intelligence and charm often made him the least suspected person in the room, and even after multiple arrests, he managed to escape twice. Once by jumping from a courthouse window, and once through a jail cell ceiling. Section 4. Arrest and Trial. Footage from his 1979 trial, one of the first televised court cases. Narrator:
For 2 days, the jurors in this trial have watched and squirmed as prosecutors introduced several dozen items of physical evidence. The grim, grotesque photos of the Chi Omega murder victims,
Bundy's
the evidence of the bloody struggle at the sorority house and at the house on Dunwoody.
After a gruesome attack on a sorority house. During his trial, he chose to represent himself, using his charm and intellect to captivate the public. Media outlets were fascinated by him, but it was all part of his manipulation. Despite his best efforts, overwhelming evidence led to his conviction, and in 1980, Ted Bundy was sentenced to death. Section 5. Psychological Analysis. Psychological experts and interviews with Ted Bundy in black and white. Narrator: psychologists have long studied Bundy's behavior to understand what led him down this path. He showed traits of narcissism, manipulation, and a complete lack of empathy. He once described himself as the most cold-hearted SOB you'll ever meet, and in his final interviews he admitted to feeling no remorse. But he craved attention, even in prison, often twisting the truth to keep people intrigued by his story. Section 6. Execution and Legate scene of a prison, and news footage of his final day. Narrator: on January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. Crowds gathered outside the prison, celebrating the end of his life. But the horror he inflicted remains a grim reminder of how deception and evil can hide in plain sight. Bundy's story has inspired books, movies, and ongoing studies on criminal psychology. His case still haunts America, as a reminder that monsters aren't always what they seem. Outro, closing with somber music. Narrator: Ted Bundy's crimes shook America, not only for their brutality, but for the betrayal of trust he represented. His ability to blend in and manipulate others reminds us of the darkness that can exist beneath the surface. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more in-depth explorations of true crime.